Hi, everybody. I've had an absolute blast recording your championship intros on audio and also on video. And for those of you that didn't know, the videos can be done special exactly the way you like them, because these are green screens and we can do them with a scene behind me. Do you want a fighting scene? Do you want a beach scene? Do you want a race car scene? Any scene you want, we can give it to you. It's your theme and my pleasure. Just write our offices and we will answer you with the exact fee involved and how it'll get done. So here we are, and now it's time, and it's your choice. Cheers!
This is a special presentation from UFC Fight Pass. Step into our world at UFCFightPass.com.
From the shores of Malibu where the waves are pumping, to the Great Wall of China, and back to the streets of where are we going? Where the UFC is going.
Atlanta.
We are live. Where are we going, TJ?
Atlanta,
Georgia, where I will not be this weekend. But we are live now. This is It's Time Radio, the show where we talk about what you think about but may be afraid to voice. Do not worry, we'll voice it for you. We talk about it all. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, politics, UFC, movies, TV, you name it, we'll talk about it. But we're here to talk about a fantastic young boxer who's just rocking the roads of boxing, rocking the rings of boxing, shall I say. Callum, the King Walsh. Callum, how are you?
I'm all good, yeah. Thanks for having me on here again.
My pleasure. And TJ, how you doing? Good to have you back.
I'm good. It's always good to be with the king who's live from the whip.
I know. It's amazing. You know, Callum, I always kid about some UFC fighters like Jim Miller and say, you know, this is the 23rd time he's fought this year. But unlike most boxers, I think you're fighting on the average of 3 to 4 times a year, aren't you?
Yeah, it'll be my 3 or 4 times. That's what I try to do. You know, I'd fight 5 times if I could. You know, I think my first year I fought 5 times. You know, so you know my fights are ending quick these days. You know, so I like to get back in there quick and keep it going.
Yeah, so you know when they end quick, like it did last time, I don't think many of your fights have even gone past the second or third round, right?
Yeah, in my last 4, I haven't been in the third round.
Yeah,
Or the
third
last
round. So I mean, getting out of that, it's almost like a day at the office training, to a certain extent. And then do you take time off or do you go right back in the gym?
Yeah, I take like a week, you know, a week or 2 just to clear the head, you know, refresh and get back in the gym straight away and start sparring and just get ready for the next one.
Take a week off, wait for the check to clear, spend a little money, have a little fun, and then go back to work. Yep. That's a good attitude. I like that. Well, you got a fight against Elias Espadas, the Shumas Casino here in California coming up. This opponent, you know, a lot of people when they're fighting UFC, MMA warriors, boxing warriors alike, I always like saying the UFC, their next fight is always their toughest fight. I mean, would this rank as one of your toughest bouts?
Yeah, I think on paper it probably is one of my toughest fights, you know, considering he has a lot of experience, you know, and he's coming off back to back 2 camps at the moment. You know, he had a good fight a few weeks ago. You know, he had a draw against an undefeated prospect, so he is capable of upsets, you know. But I think I'm on a different level, you know. I think I've proved that in my last couple of fights. You know, I fought a good fighter out there in New York, you know, and I got it done in 1 round. So I'm proving that I'm on another level. You know, I deserve to be at the top level, and I think this will be another statement for me. You know, just to set that in stone. You know, that I'm levels above these guys that could have made it or nearly made it. You know, I'm coming to take.
Yeah,
I'm coming to
exactly.
knock them out.
Buff, I think you just did a terrible thing for Elias Espadas because the last 2, 3 opponents we've talked about for Callum, we keep saying they're his toughest opponent, and then he gets them out of there in 1 round. So if Elias Espadas has a tough night, Buffer, he might be coming after you. You jinxed it for him.
I don't mean to jinx. I just mean to report the news. So
I think Callum
Elias,
has something to do with it as well.
may the best man win, but I got to tell you, I'm on Callum's corner. So what can I say? Always in Callum's corner. But I always say, people ask me all the time, who's going to win? Who's going to win? John Jones, Aspinall, if they ever fight, this person, that person. May the best man, may the best woman win. You know, I'm an equal opportunity announcer, but I have to tell you, Callum, I'm a big fan, so I'm always rooting for you when you get in the ring. Has my brother ever announced one of your fights yet?
No, not yet. But
Okay.
that'll be cool. You know.
You excited about when that happened?
Yeah, I would prefer you. You know, I wish you could announce me. You know, but I don't know if we'll ever get that. But yeah, that would be cool.
Well, Dana's promoting fights, and I know there was one fight I think that I couldn't make it. He was asking me, and Tom, of course, your managers always ask me. One day it'll happen. One day it'll happen. Dana's working with His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh. Is there any talk of you getting in that mix in the Saudi Arabian boxing ring?
Yeah, there's been a bit of talk, but Dana and Tom and stuff, they don't really tell me the plans. I presume that would be the goal, for me to go over there and fight. Dana knows I'm willing to fight anybody, anywhere, and I think it'll be a very good opportunity for me if I can get in there and fight. I think the way Dana is going to run it, it will make big fights happen. It will force fighters to fight each other, and we'll get to see who the best fighters are in the world.
Well, if you get to fight on one of those Saudi Arabian, His Excellency cards, it will be a very nice fight for you.
Yeah,
You know what this
absolutely.
means, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
could do it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you got this bout coming up. We want to talk a little opinion of yours in the MMA world. DJ?
Yeah, I mean, Callum, I've always called you sort of MMA's boxer. Being getting that Dana White interest you've sort of been put in front of the MMA fan base, and I think if you ask any MMA fan who's not a boxing fan to name a boxer, my money's on them saying Callum Walsh, and I think that's a really exciting thing. And you, Callum, are a big MMA fan. I kind of wanted to know if you had like a top 5 all-time favorite UFC fighter list.
Yeah, a top five is very hard for me, because when you get to know the fighters, you get to meet people, they just creep into your top five just because you know them and they're nice, and it kind of changes your opinion. But I think overall, definitely considering I'm Irish, Conor McGregor would have to be in there, definitely Conor McGregor. That's how I got into watching UFC, was through Conor. I remember being like 11 years old, 12 years old, in my grandmother's sitting room at 5 a.m. waiting for Conor to fight, so he would definitely be in there. Another good friend of mine, Tony Ferguson, would be in there, he was a legend, back in the day, and the more I get to know people, the more they creep in there, Another one, very old would be Don Fry, because he put on some legendary fights, and because I know him very well too, me and Don are good friends. When you get to know the person, they have to get in there, it's crazy. Yeah, top five, that's three. I know, like, because
You better
I'm
say
not.
Tabitha Ricci. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, all right. Tabitha Ricci has to be in there. I'll get in trouble when I go home, or, or I'll get beat up when I go home. But I think Dustin Poirier, because I'm not that old, what I mean. So any fights I would have watched would be recent enough, what I mean. I'm only 24, so people are gonna be saying, "Oh, he's a casual," but I'm only 24. You know what I mean? I wasn't around back when the UFC was happening, like back in the day.
Not
But
that old,
probably
but he
Dustin
mentions
Poirier.
one of the oldest fighters in Don Fry, who he and I
I think so.
started out together at UFC 10, my first full event I announced.
Yeah, because I know Don, and then I've seen his fights. I like to watch the old UFC fights, and he has had some crazy fights. And because I know him, he's a legend, legend.
Old breed. That's an old breed
Who's the
fighter,
coolest
Cal.
person, maybe MMA or non-MMA related, that you've come across, visiting with that UFC's, Callum?
What was it? What was the question?
Who's the coolest person, or maybe like just most memorable person that you've got to meet at a UFC?
I met a lot of cool people. Being around the UFC, and then having access, into the back lounge, into Dana's room. You don't know who you're gonna meet in there. I've met a lot of people that I never expected to even meet. But some of the fighters are cool, like being around. Everyone's nice, everyone's nice to me. Everyone's cool, I can't really pick one person that I was like, oh, that was cool. But I've met a lot of cool people. Probably one of the weirdest interactions I've had was I was in Dana's lounge. I was waiting for the fights, and it was like me, Shaquille O'Neal, Mel Gibson. It was like the weirdest trio ever. It was like the most random people. But I love going to the UFC. I love that's one thing that I never want. No matter whether I lose fights, no matter what happens to me, as long as I can still go to the UFC fights, that's one thing I need to keep. You know what I mean?
That's pretty sweet.
Actually, you leave the back lounge earlier before anybody because usually they all don't come out until right before the main event, the main card rather. And I see you and Tom and your buddies, sitting there like early on, which is the mark of a true fan that wants to see, true fights, wants to see them up close. Not that there's anything wrong with sitting in the back lounge, eating and drinking and having a ball with everybody, but nothing like being ringside in boxing and octagon side in MMA at the UFC and seeing the action up close.
I
Yeah,
always feel bad for Callum though, Bruce, because they make him come up and do an interview with me. And I remember one time I was looking at Instagram and he was literally hanging out with Mark Zuckerberg. And then 4 minutes later, he walks up to my desk and was like, "The man's brushing shoulders with billionaires, and now he's got to hang out with me."
Hey, billionaires to be. What can I tell you? Right? Give yourself a
yeah, but
little
it's
credit.
cool though.
Hey, Callum, back home in Northern Ireland, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Not Northern Ireland, Buff.
No, Ireland, but back home in Ireland and Northern Ireland, that's engulfed in these racist riots now for like a third day. This is crazy. Any comments on all this stuff going on?
It's crazy, but it's nearly the same thing here in LA. It's like it's everywhere. It's happening all over the place. And I think these like that's not the way to deal with it. Like the riots and stuff it's not really the best way to deal with it. But to be honest, the country is nearly falling apart at the moment. It's a lot more dangerous there than it used to be. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't know what to say. I'm not the most political. I'd rather not get
That's
into it
okay.
and say the wrong thing. But Ireland, the Irish people are definitely standing up for their country, and things need to change. But I'm not the man to change it. But yeah, I
Well,
don't think.
speaking of change, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Conor McGregor is running to be the what do you call it? The governor of Ireland, or what
Yeah,
is the
I think he's trying to be the president. I think.
president? Pardon me, the
Yeah.
president of Ireland. Pardon me. Um, you think he'd get voted into office?
I don't think so. I'm sure there's a law where you need to have 20 votes from people in government, and I think they all said no. Everybody said no to McGregor being involved. But it doesn't matter whether McGregor's president or not. The man has a massive following. He has the ability to influence people no matter what. And I think he's doing good work at the moment.
Speaking of the work that Conor McGregor's doing, he's involved as part owner of the bare knuckle fighting championships. Do you enjoy watching those?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to try bare knuckle. In the future. I fought bare knuckle my whole life for free. So if there was an opportunity to get paid for it, I'd definitely be willing to do it. I think it's a very entertaining sport. I know some people that are doing it and they're doing very well at the moment. And I think it's growing and it's especially with McGregor involved. He's one of the biggest combat athletes in the world. Yeah, I would like to maybe try it in the future. Who knows?
But in the future, I would think that my first thought would be that you'd want to like fulfill your path in boxing. You've got belts under your arm. Um, the goal for you, what is the? There's so many belts in boxing. With all respect, what is the ultimate goal in boxing for you? What belt is the ultimate goal?
Like belts are not the ultimate goal for me. I want to go down in history, and I want to go down as a man that took any challenge. Fought the best, came out on top, and even if I lose, draw, whatever, I always took on the best challenges, fought the best people, and I showed up to fight. That's what I want my legacy to be. I want to be known as a man that always fought the best, never took any easy fights, never avoided fights, gave the fans what they wanted, and showed up and fought.
Great attitude. I would just suggest, as your non-manager, but just friend, when it comes to bare knuckle boxing, I would save that for the end of your fulfillment in boxing for one key reason, in case you break your hand.
Yeah,
One key
100%.
reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
boxing is my main priority right now. I want to do everything I can in boxing, and once I've done all I can do, yeah, I'll still be young and I'll have time to try other things.
Hey, speaking of trying other things, Callum, I mean, we talk about your affiliation with MMA and Dana. Obviously, it's way down in the future, but you're young right now, so maybe you can't even really give me a real answer. But do you think a transition to MMA would be likely where you stand right now, or is it just something you haven't put much thought in?
No, I think so. I think it's definitely likely. It's like a bucket list thing for me. I've been a massive UFC fan my whole life, and now being around Tabitha, she's constantly training. I'm constantly watching her train. I'm going to her training sessions. It's very interesting to me. Considering I've been boxing my whole life. Doing the one thing, hitting the bag, hitting pads, punching, and then when you go to all these different training sessions, it's interesting, seeing the different arts, the grappling, the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, the Muay Thai, it's very interesting to me to learn, and I've been messing around with it here and there, and I think it's definitely a bucket list thing for me to do. I wanna like I said, though, my boxing is my main priority right now. Do everything I can, and then throw my hand at something else. You know, I'll be a jack of all trades, but a master of none. You know, but I'll try it. You know, we'll see.
Well, I don't know, but I don't know if you're a master of none. I think you're fast becoming a master of boxing. So let's put it there. Uh, Callum, one key thing in MMA for anybody that's a striker, first thing you need to learn how to do, amongst other things, is to sprawl against the takedown. Can you sprawl against the takedown?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I've wrestled and I've done a lot of jujitsu and I've done a lot of wrestling. You know, Tabata has a good wrestling training partner, and he's close enough to my size. You know, so we wrestle when I'm not in camp, and yeah, I'm definitely learning, and I feel myself getting better. You know, and if I put a couple of years into it, you know, who knows?
I got a feeling you can't hang out with either Tabitha Ricci or Tony Ferguson without getting roped into some sort of MMA training at some point.
I actually had Tony at my house yesterday. You know, we were doing a bit of training. He just stopped by, and you know, Tony, you know, he just stops by my house just to grab some to eat or whatever because he was up close to my house. And then he's like, "Oh, let's go outside." And I'm like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" And then it's like an hour of like stretching, pummeling, you know, like wrestling. Just it's fun. though. Tony's cool.
Only an hour. You got off light.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really.
because he just came from a training session. That's why I got lucky. He just came back. He was on his way back from a session.
Another example, people don't really realize, or they do realize the amazing shape, cardio wise, and everything else that MMA fighters, along with boxers, are in. You know, to go 5 minute rounds. That's the other thing too, Callum. You know, there's a big difference between a 3 minute round and a 5 minute round. When you're in the 5 minute round, when you're taking elbows and knees and you're clinching when you're supposed to unclinch in boxing, but you're clinching and grappling and everything. You notice that big difference, I'm sure, between a 3 minute boxing round and a 5 minute MMA round.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially when it comes to wrestling and jujitsu, and you're using muscles that you're not used to. You know, that's what I found when I first started to mess around with the wrestling and stuff. It's like I'm using muscles that I could punch all day. You know, I could throw punches all day, but once you go from grappling to standing back up, your arms are like jelly. You know what I mean? Your arms are so tired you can't even be effective with your striking anymore. You know, so it's definitely something that will take a lot of training. Something that will you need a lot of getting used to. You know, to do well. But I think a lot of the fighters right now in the UFC are doing well with a solid boxing base, boxing and wrestling. You know, that's what a lot of the champions have right now, like JDM. You know, boxing, and he has a good takedown defense, and Topuria. You know, he's a solid boxing base too. You know, so I think it's definitely a great opportunity there. You know, if you have good boxing and wrestling.
Very cool. Uh, TJ, did we get the five answers from Callum or only four?
We only got four, but he can beat me up, so I wasn't going to push him on a fifth. But I'd love to know the fifth.
Who do we have? We had Tony, Connor, Dan Fry, Poirier. And then you said I had to throw Talbot in there, so that was
Yeah,
my
she'll forgive you. She'll forgive you.
Yeah, she'll. Let me think. Let me think. It's so hard because there's so many fighters and the worst thing is I have so many. Like all I do every day is watch UFC edits. I just always look through the edits of all the fights, and I have so many saved that I'm thinking
Okay,
about that
how
I.
about this? I'll let you off the hook, not coming up with a fifth. Do you have a favorite fight?
Yeah, one that I watch a lot is the Robbie Lawler fight. Um, oh,
With
that's
Rory
what.
Markham? Or
Yeah,
not Markham, Rory McDonald?
yeah, Roy McDonald. That one was crazy. I have that probably saved like 5 times on my phone, like different edits of Dana talking about how they were after the face
Yeah.
off when they both just all destroy. It's crazy, but trying to think which other one. Yeah, probably that.
While you think, I'll just say that McDonald and Lawler fight, there's always that saying that, that guy was never the same after that fight. Neither of those two gentlemen could ever be the same after that fight. That's the craziest fight I've ever seen.
Yeah, 100%. That's a fight that takes years off your life. You know what I mean? You could never be the same after that. You know? Yeah, when you watch from round one to round five and you see the difference in their faces, and I remember Dana talking about it, being like they didn't even know what year it was. You know what I mean? When he got out, it was like Rory didn't know. Yeah, but he wasn't the same after that fight. That's what's crazy. You know, he really got changed. Yeah, but that's what it's all about. You know, they're down in history for one of the greatest fights ever. You know, I know it's you're giving a lot for it, but you know, it's what we do.
That's what you do. You're a warrior, the squared ring warrior, shall we say?
Yeah, on the way out here, Callum, Elias Espada coming up here next week. Chumash, you were joking last time we spoke that said Tom is sending you to finish the job. Espada's got a draw against a 360 fighter last time out in Saturday Akhmedov. What were your takeaways from Elias's bout with Akhmedov, and do you think that you know pretty much what to expect come next week?
I haven't even watched the fight yet. I'll watch it when I get closer to the fight. I know Freddie and everybody, they have a solid game plan for me. Freddie knows boxing better than anybody, and once he tells me the plan, I implement it. And then, like, close to the fight, yeah, I'll watch it just to have it in my own, watch the fight just to have it in my own head. Now I can see the plan. But I don't want to think too much about him. I don't like to think too much about my opponents a long way out. That'll wear on you mentally too. So I try to just enjoy my training, do what Freddie tells me, and yeah, when I get close to the fight, yeah, I'll think about him.
Well, I would say that Freddie's the best weapon to have in a fight to sort of make adjustments on the fly, but you haven't had to make many adjustments later because you're getting him out of there in round one. But I'm excited for it, Callum. Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
Very
it.
excited. Very excited because I want to see you continue on this path of success that you have in your boxing career because you developed quite a reputation for yourself. The reputation is going to move forward. And again, with your opponents not getting out of the third round, if I'm correct, at best, there's not many boxers that can claim that. You're a cool cat, Callum. You get in there cool and you get out of there hot. So it's all good.
He's got things to do, Buck.
Things to do. I have animals to be taken care of and a whole farm to be looking after. I can't be up there all night fighting.
That's all right. That's all right. Then you got to go cash that check. So let's take that 20 minutes and enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right, Callum.
Thanks, Callum.
We'll see you around the octagon. I know you love going to the shows, but I wish you all the best success on the 21st. And you know what? I'm sure I'll be announcing your name someday, whether it's boxing or whether it's in the octagon. So it's going to happen, Callum, and it'd be an honor to do so when I do it. Most definitely.
100%. It's on my list. It's on my bucket list.
Well, warrior spirit up forever to you, my friend. Let me say that again. Warrior spirit to you forever, my friend.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I've had an absolute blast recording your championship intros on audio and also on video. And for those of you that didn't know, the videos can be done special exactly the way you like them because these are green screens and we can do them with a scene behind me. Do you want a fighting scene? Do you want a beach scene? Do you want a race car scene? Any scene you want, we can give it to you. It's your theme and my pleasure. Just write our offices and we will answer you with the exact fee involved and how it'll get done. So here we are, and now it's time, and it's your choice. Cheers! All right, always good to have Callum on the show. Definitely not an upcoming boxer, a very established boxer, but upcoming to be noted as one of the finest boxers ever, in his division and any other division he chooses to go into. So
yeah, I think the thing that's most impressive about Callum, Bruce, is that he's had the spotlight on him since he was 1-0, and we saw Patchy Mix fight in the UFC last week, and you could tell the lights affected him. No, nothing to take away from Mario Bautista. Like, he clearly implemented a great game plan. But, even if you're a world champion sometimes in other shows, you get to the UFC and it's just a different beast altogether. It sounds weird to say, but I think Callum being around the celebrities that he's been around in all, over the UFC events, I think that's helped him. I mean, he's a young kid still, and he's had all this exposure, and we know, more than ever, you've been around some of these guys, that exposure sometimes is a fight within itself, and Callum has been dealing with that since his pro career started, and he's been doing incredibly well with it.
Well, that's what's helped him because, he's been dealing with it since basically the beginning, but, he's a very humble individual. There's nothing cocky about Callum whatsoever. I mean, he gets a little jewelry here or whatever. More power to him. Enjoy himself.
He's got some style, some flair.
Got some style, and enjoy it. And, becoming one of the... Listen, one thing about Ireland, when they have a sports hero, they truly are the pride of Ireland. So,
Absolutely.
He is.
And Callum is quickly becoming one of the biggest combat sports stars to ever come from the country of Ireland. And, that's going to be pressure on his back as well.
There has been a boxer since Ricky Hatton, I think, that's had that kind of claim to fame. And if I ever was to announce Callum, then I would say the pride of Ireland, because that's not like registered for one person only, as I've said of Connor in the past. So I would be happy to say that for Callum. But
You
all
know
the
what's interesting, Bruce? Like I think about that, and like American combat sports fans don't seem to have that same patriotic pride. I don't know if it's because of our political system and things like that, but like, we've never had someone be billed as like the pride of the United States of America. I wonder why that is.
I don't know. In this day and age where we're so civilly separated at times, with everything going on, I don't think it's going to happen. So,
You're the pride of America, Buff.
oh, thank you very much. I'll wear my red, white, and blue tuxedo next time, but I appreciate that. Hey, I just try to be a good symbol for myself, America, and just honor our great country whenever I walk out there, wherever
Hey,
I'm
we
at.
can use one right now. You're forever going to be known as the pride of the USA.
We can use a lot of pride with the, things going on here in LA and, other states around the country, with everything happening right now. Did you hear about this plane crash in India?
No, no.
Yeah, yeah, 242 on board. They think maybe one survived. Passenger plane that
How does
happened.
that make you feel? Because you're a guy that's getting on a jet every week.
It's still the safest way to travel. I think,
Percent.
you know, when the odds aren't against you. I mean, situations happen. There's been a lot of situations. In
Here
this case,
lately, I mean, we've been talking about plane crashes, it seems, since the start of the year.
yeah, they had a JetBlue plane roll over on the grass at Boston's Logan Airport just, I think today or yesterday. Not a crash, thank God, but a mishap.
I
Uh,
mean, if it is it did it just run off the runway?
yeah, went off the runway onto the
Yeah.
grass, and then
I mean, this is the thing too. I think we need to keep in mind. If you're a nervous flyer and you hear about these things, the reason you hear about these things is because they very rarely ever happen.
very rarely they're caught on. We don't hear about all the private plane, situations
Yeah,
that
that's
take
true. And
place.
there's a lot of those.
Yeah, there's been a lot of those, and in this case of the India crash, supposedly this plane had a perfect safety record, so it'll be investigated as to why. But it's tragic, very tragic.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one sort of thing you can at least take some solace in. It's a very sad situation, but every time one of these situations happen, there's an investigation that is done very rapidly and responsibly, and they find the cause of it, and then they make sure that they do everything they can to prevent it on that same type of plane if there was some sort of critical defect in the equipment.
Yeah, 242 people on board. The man who supposedly survived was sitting in seat 11A. And usually the safest part of the plane is the rear towards the tail. So
Yeah,
tragic.
and you're always up front, Buff, in the luxury position.
Hey, again, you can't think about it.
That's true.
What happens, happens.
That's
So
true, and I'll take the first class seat every time it's offered over being worried about it and sitting in the back.
listen, travel's the hardest part of the job, but don't cry for me. Yes, business class, first class, whatever. What I feel bad is for is the people that take these long treks like to Baku next week are sitting in coach. Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, coach for an hour and a half flight sometimes can be terrible depending on the plane. I will say a lot of the newer planes, they're making those coach class seats a bit more comfortable. But
Yeah.
I mean, there are some airlines, Buff. You get on a Spirit airline, you might as well just stand the whole time.
Yeah, I've heard that about them. I'm not going to complain about travel because I am, I do travel in a nice way, but the seat coming back from Newark, for instance, lay down seat, so narrow, I was like this, laying
Yeah,
down.
you're not a wide guy.
I was like in a coffin.
Oh, geez.
Well, I'm not as wide as some. I wonder how some people do it. I wonder how basketball players do it. But anyway, getting off the subject, nothing to complain about. Love my job, love the travel, embrace it all, have a good time. But Baku, oof,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a long trek.
Hey, real quick, how about Marab?
Rob.
Marab.
Oh, Marab. No, listen, I think Marab's the probably on his way to, if not already, the GOAT of the bantamweight division.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's kind of being kicked around. I'd like to have him, you know, have a few more title defenses before we lay that upon
Yeah.
him. But like
Yeah, I think
the
so too.
upward trajectory for him, like it's incredibly hard to get to a UFC title. It's harder to stay there, and it's harder to be improving while you're there. And I think Marab is still not a finished product yet. He out hustles everybody, cardio for days, and we saw his finishing ability against a guy who went 25 minutes with him and wasn't finished. So he's improved there. We'll see what Sandhagen can do, but Marab's is as good as it gets, and maybe as good as it's ever been at bantamweight.
I think so too, but the Sandhagen fight's going to be its toughest fight, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough one, but right now, I mean, I don't think I'm breaking news. I think Barab will be the favorite, but we'll see what Corey can do.
Well, for sure, I think Marab's going to be the favorite going in the fight, but favorite or not, this is the Octagon. This is mixed martial arts. Anybody
Anything can
get
happen.
today. Kayla Harrison, completely overpowering the former champion, Juliana
Yeah,
Pena.
yeah. What do you think about that Amanda fight?
Love it. Love it.
I just get worried, and I don't mean to be a negative Nancy here, but Kayla was very open and honest about how hard it was to make 135
Very
pounds.
hard for her.
Until she figures that out, which I don't even know if there is any figuring that out because she's such a naturally big athlete. I'm gonna always kind of hold my breath until she officially weighs in, and depending on how she looks, like that was the thing too. Like Pena's supporters were saying Harrison's not going to be able to get through that weight cut without being compromised, and if Juliana can take it deeper, maybe that's when she takes over. But that weight cut is going to be a very tough one for her, and she cannot be in any compromised position if she wants to be able to have a chance to take out the greatest woman to ever do it.
Well, the weight cut's tough, but the weight gain after is not not tough for her. That's for sure. She must have weighed 25 pounds heavier.
But it is tough in the sense, Bruce, that sometimes you don't always put it back on and feel great. You can get it back on, but does your body respond to the way it needs to be in top peak performance? And that's the thing too. Like she's going to get older every fight, and as you get older, that weight cut can sometimes become more difficult, and sometimes getting that weight back on and feeling good becomes more difficult.
Absolutely, and all power to Kayla. She's going to be a powerful champion, making the weight cut to deal with Amanda. I can't wait to see that fight. Joe Pyfer definitely made a big statement against Kevin Gastelum coming in.
It was interesting. Piper should have been able to finish him. He wasn't able to. I hate saying should have been able to finish him, but
Calvin's a tough cat.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I thought the fight was possibly going to end in a draw. I had the first round 10-8 for Piper. And then looking at it, I wasn't paying too close attention, but I think Gastelum clearly won the second, and the third was somewhat debatable, but yeah.
Was what it was. A lot of people behind the Patchy Mix train, and Patchy will be back to do his thing. Vincent Luque, Kevin Holland. I thought Kevin Holland ending in a submission against Vincente Luque was just phenomenal.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
give Kevin Holland a lot of credit for that.
Kevin proved that when he has time to prepare for a fight, he's in phenomenal peak shape, and because he's taken so many fights. I mean, never that he wasn't in shape, but he's taken so many fights in last minute opponent changes. I would never feel comfortable picking against Kevin Holland when he gets a good camp in and his opponent doesn't change. But he's a guy that he'll fight anybody on any given night. It's good to know that he's going to kind of maybe focus on welterweight because he's been, dabbling at middleweight. But Kevin Holland at 170, 100% ready with a camp in, tough guy to get out of there.
Yeah, very, very tough. It's a hell of a show, very exciting. All the way down through, good fights. Waldo Cortez Acosta, the Spivak fight, very tough fight. All the way down, just a good solid card. We got the card coming up this weekend with, what is it, Kamaru Usman?
Yeah, Usman and Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, so I will not be in Atlanta. Joe Martinez will be taking the mic and entertaining the audience during the show. So everybody have a good time with that. Rose Namajunas, I hate missing announcing Rose Namajunas' fights. And I hate introducing Michael Chiesa. Isn't he fighting next week too? Yeah, he's fighting Court McGee.
Okay.
That should be a good fight too. It's always fun to introduce Mike, but it's fun to introduce all the Octagon Warriors. Paul Craig's coming back. This is actually a very, very good card. Alonzo Menafield, Umar Sy. Cody Garbrandt. Yeah, no, this is a really, really interesting card. Yep. Sorry I missed it, but I got to go to Baku, and then I've got UFC Fight Week. So busy, 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 busy. All right, TJ, let's sign off. I got to go.
Yeah, kind of a nice little low-key weekend for me. I'm not doing anything, but next week I got 2 shows. Excited for that. Doing A1 Combat the night before Callum's fight. That's going to be live on Fight Pass. And then, International Fight Week will be upon us. Maybe we'll see you out there.
Yep. Maybe so. I'll be out there. I've got Puncher's Chance business to do and had an appearance for Puncher's Chance last night. The bourbon is
cranking. That's all I can tell you. It's doing really, really great. Everybody, thank you. I put out the call to arms to do your Father's Day cameos and videos. I'm getting a lot of orders. It's been a lot of fun because my father passed away. You know, God bless my big dad, Joe Buffer. And make me into the man that I am today. And I want to wish all of you out there a very happy Father's Day with your fathers. TJ, happy Father's Day to you. Always that, along with Mother's Day, has been two of my favorite days of the year to spend time with my loving mom and dad. So I hope everybody has a great time with your family and your dads, and that you have a great relationship with your father. And if you do, honor him, whether it's over a beer or a gift or just spending the day with him. Parents are very important. Definitely. We'll leave it at that.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
There we go.
Do your thing, Buff.
All right, all good. All right, let me sign off, everybody. Set your goals, write them down, be a role model to your sphere of influence. So in this day and age that we're living in, we need role models. And when you step on that yellow brick road to success, to your future, be the best you can be, because then you're winning. And that's what we're all about in It's Time Radio. Winning and being the best we can be, whether you're a champion or not. Take pride in yourself. Have a great week, everybody. Happy Father's Day. Thank you for tuning in. Big cheers, no fears forever, and warrior spirit forever. Don't forget that.